How about Howlite? What do you know? What do you need to know? What are you about to find out? My name is Sheila from Satin Crystals, and today we are discussing Howlite stone, its meanings, properties, answering your top 5 questions about Howlite, and at the end, I'm going to reveal if you are somebody who could benefit from having Howlite in your life. Before we begin, I thank you for liking this video and subscribing to our YouTube channel so you never miss out on your upcoming crystal healing videos. So let's begin learning all about Howlite. What is Howlite? Howlite is an opaque, snow white stone with trickling gray inclusions. It rarely comes in crystal formation, but usually you will see it in these nuggets that look like cauliflower heads. The top 5 questions we are going to answer about Howlite today are: what are the healing properties of Howlite? How can you use Howlite in your healing practice? Can you tell real versus fake Howlite? And what about Magnesite? Is Howlite a turquoise? And is Howlite dyed? And if so, how can you tell? What are the healing properties of Howlite? In crystal healing, Howlite is best known for its minimalist energy. It has a very focused energy connecting you to your higher self. It's a spiritual stone that is great for your crown chakra. At the crown chakra, it connects to your higher realms, and because of its gray trickling veins, it also helps you root down into the earth at your root chakra. So it's a great yin-yang balance. It is best known for keeping you on your path in this lifetime. So think about it as spiritual blinders. It helps you to focus, stay positively on your path without distractions. Some other healing properties of Howlite is that it is a soothing stone. So people who feel stressed or anxious will use Howlite to calm their mind. It's also great for people who are quick to anger or being frustrated. Howlite also has this cooling effect for that. And it is known for breaking habits and creating new beginnings so that you can have a healthy lifestyle. So these are just some of the metaphysical properties of Howlite. Let's talk about how we can use it in our practice. How do you use Howlite in your healing practice? Here I'm going to show you a few ways on how to use Howlite. And after this video, head over to the Satin Crystals Howlite Meanings page and you'll find many more ideas for you. So first of all, you can use Howlite whenever you know that you are going to go into some frustrating situations, or when you're feeling some anger bubbling up. Have polished Howlite with you so that you can rub your thumb over the pieces and helps to alleviate that angry energy. It develops patience so that you know that you can process these emotions. It's okay to have the emotions, but at the end, after you have processed them, instead of lashing out, you are going to be able to deal with them much more effectively thanks to your Howlite polished stones. Use Howlite wands whenever you are feeling stressed out. You can use the smooth side of the wands to physically remove tension from your body, and the pointed part can metaphysically direct unwanted energies away from your body. You can use Howlite stars at your crown chakra whenever you are doing any past life regression work to access that memory, access the Akashic records from the universe, bringing down that spiritual higher self energy to your session. Meditate with Howlite spheres so you can have that clear, clean access, a column of energy to your higher self and the spiritual realms. It is also a great stone to fill your aura with white light when you're going forth into your meditation. Gift Howlite hearts to anybody who is going through new beginnings. It'll help them through this change in a positive way. You could also gift your Howlite hearts to a new love, a new friend, thanking them, feeling the appreciation and gratitude for their presence on your life path. If you are somebody who works a lot on the computer or on your phone, somebody who's always looking down at your hands, wear Howlite rings or bracelets and be constantly reminded of what you had programmed your Howlite stones for. So those are a few ways on how you can use your Howlite stones in your healing. As I said, we have much more information about Howlite at our Satin Crystals Howlite Meanings page. So now let's move on and find out if we have real or fake Howlites. How can you tell real versus fake Howlite? Well, luckily for us, there's not very much fake Howlite out there. Howlite is relatively affordable and it is abundant, so there's not much benefit for vendors to fake Howlite. However, if you are unsure if you have Howlite or something else, here are 3 tips for you. First of all, real Howlite will have its veins embedded within the stone as it grew within the stone. And fake Howlite may have it on top of the stone where they have drawn or painted the veins on. So if you look very carefully, look at the veins of the stone. If you think you have plastic instead of Howlite, you can press a hot pin into the surface, somewhere discreet if you're worried. If it has that plasticky burnt smell and if it melts, obviously it is not Howlite. And third, if you think you might have glass, Howlite is much softer than glass. So glass will scratch Howlite very easily, whereas Howlite will not scratch glass. So in this case, you can use the Mohs scale of hardness and you can find out the softness or hardness of your stone. We just released a Mohs scale of hardness for crystals article on Satin Crystals. So if you're unfamiliar with this scale, make sure to check that out. It is a very important one when you're working with crystals. While you'll not commonly encounter fake Howlite, what you will probably be confused between is Magnesite and Howlite. So as you can see, Magnesite and Howlite are very similar in appearance. They are both porcelain white with dark veins. And if you're not experienced with them, it's very hard to tell. And even if you are experienced with the naked eye, sometimes you can't tell at all. So these ones are very similar. This heart here has actually brown veins, which after looking at the 2 stones for many years, working with Howlite and Magnesite, I have found that online, if you are shopping for both, Magnesite tends to have the more browner veins and the Howlite will have the more gray veins. This is not a definitive answer as they could be interchangeable, but for the most part, you'll be headed in the right direction if you're buying Howlite with gray veins and Magnesite with brown veins. They also say that Howlite has a brighter white color than Magnesite, which is a duller white. This, of course, is subjective and is quite hard to tell what is bright and what is not. Magnesite comes in different shades, whereas Howlite is always white. Magnesite you might find in other colors, so it might be shades of yellow or browns. So if you do have that, you have a good clue that you have Magnesite rather than Howlite. Another test that I've found online, which I have not done myself, is they say if you have raw pieces of Magnesite and Howlite, you can stick it to the tip of your tongue, and if it sticks to your tongue, it's Magnesite. If it doesn't stick, it's Howlite. Now this has not been tested here at Satin Crystals yet, so maybe in the future, once we get to our Magnesite meanings video, we can do this for you. And other than that, we don't have very much definitive ways to tell just by the naked eye. Both of them have relatively the same hardness, so you can't really tell by the scratch test either. If you are more advanced in gemological testing, we do have some tests that will definitively tell you which stone is which. You can head on over to the Satin Crystals Howlite Meanings page and find out how you can use the hydrochloric acid, how you can tell with refractive index, how you can tell with UV light and blue light. I did do a blue light test on both of these pieces here. The magnesite did have a light blue glow, whereas the howlite did not have any glow at all. But the UV test also is not very definitive, as there's not a definitive guide on which stone should glow which way under which UV wavelength. But these are some ways to tell. If you really, really need to know, the best way would be to send it into a certified gemological laboratory. They can do all of the definitive tests for you, and they will give you a report on what your stone is. However, as we said, these are both relatively cheap stones, so it's not really worth it to send into the laboratory unless you just really, really need to know and you can't figure it out on your own. Just an add-on note, if you have a trusted vendor, that is the second best thing to a certified gemological laboratory. I just wanted to make a note of this because when I was researching how to tell magnesite and howlite from each other, I did see several crystal websites that claim howlite and magnesite are the same stone. They are not. They did not do their research. These are totally different stones. They have different chemical compositions. So if you see something like that, think twice about buying from that shop. Is howlite a turquoise? Howlite is not turquoise. It is a completely different crystal than turquoise, but it is often mislabeled as white turquoise. There is actually such a thing as white turquoise, but it is not very common because real white turquoise is very powdery like talc, only a 1 on the Mohs scale of hardness. So you won't see white turquoise in the market. However, howlite is often dyed into a blue-green color to resemble turquoise. It also has the veins like turquoise often does. Here we have a piece of natural turquoise from New Mexico, and here you have your white howlite. So if you dyed white howlite a blue-green color, you might be able to pass it off as turquoise to unsuspecting buyers. So make sure you know what you're buying, turquoise or dyed howlite. Howlite is a much softer stone than turquoise, so it's easily told apart using the Mohs scale of hardness that we had spoken about before. You might be sold howlite as a white buffalo turquoise. Now, white buffalo turquoise does not exist at all. There is a rare stone called white buffalo. It only comes from Nevada. It's a black and white stone, but it is neither a turquoise nor a howlite. So if you're being sold white buffalo turquoise, beware. To tell the difference between dyed howlite and other stones, you can place the stone in acetone, which is a nail polish remover, and see if any of the dye flows out of the stone. So this will indicate that it is not a real stone. You could also scrape the stone to see if it is white underneath. And more drastically, you can break the stone to see if it is white within, because usually the dye will not absorb all the way into the center of the stone. Now I'm going to show you a dyed howlite. It could also be magnesite, I'm not sure, but it's dyed to imitate turquoise. And I found out when I did place it in acetone, and some of the white underneath is now showing. So I'll slowly move it towards the camera, so hopefully you'll be able to see some of the white in this stone, whereas this turquoise here is not dyed, and you can see that it looks very similar, but the white of the howlite is showing in this pendant on top now. So just beware if you are buying more valuable stones that they are not fakes. Now that we have gone over your top howlite questions, are you somebody who could benefit from howlite in your life? Now, if one or more of these statements applies to you, then you should definitely have howlite in your collection. If you are seeking to connect with your higher self without any kind of distractions, remember those spiritual blinders, use howlite at your crown chakra. If you're also seeking that yin-yang balance, use howlite both at your crown and your root chakras. If you want to follow your positive path in this life, use howlite. If you are somebody who's quick to anger or frustration or anxiousness, use howlite to alleviate those emotions. If you're looking to develop patience, then howlite is great for you. If you are somebody who is wanting to wear a neutral toned crystal, something that'll match with everything, wear howlite jewelry. If you're looking to break a habit and develop some healthy new lifestyle, use howlite for sure. Thank you for watching today. We have a lot more information about howlite on our Satin Crystals page. We couldn't fit it all here, but head on over there next and you'll get to know all about howlite. Plus, you can add your favorite howlite gemstones to your cart and check out at the Satin Crystals shop. While you're there, join the Satin Crystals VIP Club. We send out information every single week, both by email and by SMS. As always, thank you for subscribing, for watching, liking our video, and for your positive energy here at Satin Crystals.